Hello and welcome to another tech tip video. I'm going to talk about VPNs today um, and why you should get one. First of all, what is a VPN? I'm sure you've heard people talk about them before, or you've heard the term VPN. It stands for Virtual Private Network. Originally, it was used if you were working at a company that you needed to access their network from outside of their network. Say you were at home and you needed to access your company's network. The VPN concept was created so that you could create a secure connection between you and your company so that no one could look in on that information that you were sharing. It's become a common thing that pretty much all internet users should use nowadays. And essentially, what it does is it hides your internet activity for the most part. It creates a tunnel. And So basically, you can see from the photo on the screen here, once you connect to the VPN, it creates a tunnel directly to the VPN server. And the server that the VPN owns is what actually accesses the internet, gets all the information, and then sends that back to you. So from anybody on the outside looking in, imagine being in a tunnel, like a physical tunnel. Nobody can see what's going on inside that tunnel. So this actually protects you from not only malicious attackers, but also hide your information from your internet service provider, the government, and also corporate entities. And why would you want to use one as an RVer? Mostly for protection. If you connect to a public Wi-Fi, say you're at an RV park and you connect to the RV park Wi-Fi, there are many different attacks that somebody within that park could use to intercept public Wi-Fi information, and which means that they could potentially intercept what you're browsing, passwords, banking information, and many banks and websites take steps to try to stop that from happening. But if you're on a public Wi-Fi, people do have access to that information with some, and it doesn't require anything extensive. You can hack a public Wi-Fi with a laptop. Actually, you can do it with a cell phone and receive that information. Here's a actual real world example on how it could be very easy for an attacker at an RV park to get your information. Have you ever been to an RV park that has multiple routers? Like, for example, if you're at Happy RV Park and their Wi-Fi is Happy RV Park 1 and Happy RV Park 2 and Happy RV Park 3, depending upon where you are in the park. It actually doesn't take very much know-how to spoof a Wi-Fi hotspot connection. So if an attacker sees that there's multiple routers, they can actually set up their computer to piggyback off of the park's Wi-Fi, but they can set their computer as an extra node on the network. So if you are closest to Happy RV Park 4 and that doesn't actually exist and you connect to it, you're actually connecting directly to an attacker's computer. And all of your information goes through their computer before it gets sent out to the network in the first place. So it's not very difficult to do that. So by connecting to a VPN, all of the information that's sent back and forth between you and the server of the VPN is encrypted. So if you're on a public Wi-Fi, if a hacker or an attacker was to try to look in, all they would see in any information that they would gather is gibberish. And it would take either a supercomputer or a large number of years to try and break into that gibberish. In other words, it's very difficult. Another reason that one might want to use a VPN is thanks to Congress. Everything that you do on the internet, your internet service provider. So if you're using if you're using Wi-Fi, the internet service provider of the RV park, but more importantly, if you're using your cell phone or your wireless plan, which many of us RVers are, um, whether you're with Verizon or Sprint or whoever runs your internet plan, they're actually allowed legally to collect all of the anonymous usage data on you, and they are able to sell that to companies and basically make profit off of it. So your internet service provider is legally allowed to snoop on what you do on the internet. Using a VPN actually stops the internet service provider from being able to collect that information. And of course, that includes the government, as well as any corporate entities that might be interested in that information. At the end of the day, it's your data, and people are making money off of it. So essentially, you're paying your internet service provider to collect data on you, and they get to make money off of that data. So a VPN stops all of that. There's a few other positive uses for a VPN. For example, certain ones actually, if you were to connect to a server in the United Kingdom, you can see a different Netflix library, for example. It does have to be a VPN that that works to allow Netflix through. Netflix doesn't particularly like VPNs because of licensing restrictions that it has. So that's essentially what a VPN is and why it is important to get one. It's mostly security. Now, establishing a VPN, as I said, it creates basically a secure tunnel where only you and the VPN server can understand each other, and everything else that anybody sees from the outside is in effect hidden, but it's encrypted. And it also makes it difficult for your internet service provider or any website you visit, any corporate entities, to know where you are. Because when you're on the internet, you have an IP address, and the IP address that's assigned will actually tell anybody that knows your IP address approximately where you are in the world. Um, so using a VPN, your IP address actually becomes the VPN server. So, for example, if you have a VPN server in Dallas, Texas, uh, and you're in New York, once you connect to that VPN, any internet activity that you do appears to be coming from that computer in Dallas, Texas, and not from you. So it's definitely a way to remain anonymous if you don't want your data uh, spread around the internet, or sold to various companies and that sort of thing. So it definitely is something that's needed nowadays for security and a little bit of peace of mind. So now that I've talked about why you should use one, I'm going to tell you about the one that I use, which is Expressvpn. And I'm going to minimize this window here, and I'm going to go on the internet. Um, so I'm going to go to expressvpn.com, and I'm actually there's a few reasons why I chose this particular VPN. One, in the search for a VPN, you want one that's not keeping logs, one that promises not to keep logs, because um, not only can your internet service provider keep information on you, but a VPN that you connect to now kind of becomes the place of the internet service provider, and they can see the information that you go to. So definitely choose a VPN that's high rated and that you can trust. There are free VPNs out there, but for the most part, they actually collect your data and sell it in order to make money. So you end up in the same boat in the first place. So ExpressVPN is the one I chose. One, because of speed. When you use a VPN, it is going to drop your speed a little bit because you're having to connect to another server before actually contacting the website that you're going to. So longer distance of travel equals more time to get there. Another reason I chose it is because they don't keep logs that can identify you, and they have many, many servers to choose from throughout the world. Um, so you definitely, and especially throughout the United States. Normally I pick one that's in the United States because those are going to be the fastest for you if you're in the United States. And they have a lot of servers throughout the US. So if one of them has a lot of traffic on it or is overloaded, you can always switch to another server. Um, and so that's nice to have. So this has 160 VPN locations. Another good feature that ExpressVPN has is a kill switch. And essentially what that is if you lose the VPN connection, which sometimes that happens, it will automatically cut off your internet connection so that you don't get any data in and out that's unencrypted. And if you decide that you don't care if data goes in and out and you can't connect to the VPN again, you can always manually tell it to stop killing your internet. And signing up for it is also easy. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my account. I uninstalled the VPN from my computer so that I can go through the installation process and show you how easy that is. Another thing that I like about them is every time I've had an issue or a question for them, when you go to their website, there's this live chat button on the bottom. I've always been able to get connected and get any issues resolved very quickly. So, my account. So I'm going to log into my account. I must enter the verification code. Okay, the video skipped because I went through my login page and I didn't plan on giving out my login information. So I've logged in and I am greeted with this page that gives me all of my information. So in order to install it on my laptop that I'm using right now, I go to Setup ExpressVPN, and it'll automatically detect that I have Windows. So I download it. And we're going to download that onto my, I'm just going to download that onto my C drive. I don't have permission to save in this location. Okay. So I'm going to download it. Once it's downloaded, which it appears to be down here at the bottom, you can either open up the file on your computer by going to it. I'm using a Chromium browser, so I can just click the file down here. Whatever you normally do to install applications. Okay, once you have clicked on install application and have installed ExpressVPN, it'll ask you a couple of permission questions, which my screen recorder isn't capturing at the moment. But it'll come up with the ExpressVPN app and ask if you want to sign in or buy a subscription. If you haven't gotten a prescription or a subscription at this point, you can do so. If you already have one, you would hit sign in. Now you'll notice that I have a couple of blurred areas on my screen at the moment, and that is my activation code that this is talking about. I don't know how often that changes, so I didn't want to give out my activation code. But where those blurred areas are here, and you can see my mouse moving down here, you can click either one of those blue boxes and it will copy the activation code to your clipboard. And then you can paste that activation code into this enter your ExpressVPN activation code bar and then hit continue. Once you've done that, it will verify you and it's going to ask a couple of questions. One, it asks if you want to launch ExpressVPN on Windows Startup. That's up to you. I always say okay, so it starts automatically or it at least launches the application automatically when Windows starts up. I have to connect it to the VPN. And then it asks if you want to help improve ExpressVPN by sending crash reports and speed tests and other anonymous data. What this does is if you run a speed test or if your VPN isn't working or not connecting, it'll compile a crash report and send that anonymously over to ExpressVPN. So if they have a whole bunch of those, they know they have an issue they need to address, possibly for an update. It's up to you whether you want to do that or not. I say okay. And now we are in the application. You'll notice it says smart location here, which currently is Dallas. That is the location that ExpressVPN has decided that is going to be the fastest at this moment in time. You can click these little 3 bars here and see all of the servers. This is just a list of the recommended. All of the locations is going to show you a lot more. So you can pick and choose which server you want. Another option, if things are going slow for you, you can go over here and choose speed test. And all you have to do is hit run test, and it'll do a speed test of all the servers and tell you which one is the fastest. For the most part, though, connecting to ExpressVPN requires this very difficult process. You go over here to this big power button and you click it, and it will connect to the smart location. Once you are connected, you basically use the internet as you normally would. To double check if you're connected, I'm going to go on ExpressVPN's website and type in what is my IP. And it'll tell me that I'm connected to Dallas. Now, what would it look like if I was not connected to a VPN? I shall show you. So I disconnected from it. I'm going to refresh this page. You'll notice that it now gives my actual IP address, tells me I'm in Tennessee, and it even is able to see what internet service provider I'm using. So to give you an idea, if ExpressVPN can see all of that information, obviously other websites on the internet are able to detect that information. And I'll reconnect to the VPN. And there's a couple of other tests you can do. There's the DNS Leak Test. The domain name server is actually what converts websites that you type in into IP addresses. So when you go to facebook.com, it actually converts the text facebook.com into the special address to connect to Facebook's server. Domain name servers can actually log that information. So if you're using a public one or your ISP's domain name server, that's one way that they can get a hold of the information, all of the websites that you visit. So the DNS leak test tells me that I'm using ExpressVPN's DNS servers since I'm connected. And then there's another test, that WebRTC leak test, which has to do with your browser. I have no leak. If you want more information on what those tests are looking at and a better explanation, ExpressVPN actually talks about each one of those tests and how they work and why you would want to be secure in those in much more detail than you probably want to hear me drone on about. So that's basically how you install it on your computer. I'm now going to show you how to install it on your cell phone. I don't have an iPhone. I'm going to be doing it with an Android. I'm guessing that the process is relatively the same. If you're unsure, ExpressVPN does have instructions for each one of the platforms that it has on how to install it. So this is how it's done on an Android phone. If you want to go to your App Store or the Play Store, if you're on an Android phone, you will search for ExpressVPN and install that app. Once it's installed, you can open it up and it'll ask you to either start a trial or sign in. Go ahead and sign in with your username and password, and it'll be the same username and password that you used to sign in for the website. And it will then ask if you want to help improve Expressvpn by sending anonymous data again, and then it'll ask if you want to set it up. Now, on an Android phone, it's basically going to tell you that an application is trying to set up a VPN, and make sure you trust that application. So you can hit OK on that, and then you are all set up. In order to log in, same process with a Windows phone. You're just going to tap the power button there, and it will connect to the VPN. At that point, you can minimize that application and browse the internet how you would normally browse the internet. And you're going to be connected to that VPN. You'll notice in the top corner of my screen, the very top, there's a little key that tells me I'm connected to a VPN. One setting of note, if you go into settings, clicking the bar up there, you'll want to set it to auto connect to the VPN when you start your phone. So if you tick that little box, when Android starts up, it'll automatically connect to the VPN, and you don't have to worry about whether or not it's on. You can just check that top bar up at the top. It's probably kind of hard to see on the screen, but next to the LTE on the very top bar, there's a little picture of a key. As long as that's showing, you're connected to the VPN. You can, of course, choose different server locations by clicking that Dallas or the current location and connect to a different one. The one that I'm connected to is a smart location, and as I said, that typically works for me. So I hope you liked this video on VPNs, why they should be used, and how they can help you stay secure on the internet. If you would like to check out ExpressVPN and get it for yourself, I ask that you please use the link in the description of this video in order to go to their website. It is an affiliate link, so I get credit or I get paid if you decide to sign up for it. It is a VPN that I use, and it definitely is something that I endorse. So if you use that link, I greatly appreciate it. If you would like to see more videos, click the subscribe button and click the bell notification so that you can be informed whenever we upload new content. You can check out our website, henleyshappytrails.com, for more RVing information, and check us out on Facebook. While you're on our website, if you'd like to get RV-related news every once in a while and stories from our travels, you can sign up to our newsletter as well. Until we meet again, happy trails.